In a world where headlines move fast and attention moves even faster, three events unfolding across different regions are quietly shaping the future of global power in 2026. In West Africa, over 100 civil society organizations disappear overnight. In South Africa, one of the country's most controversial political figures faces a 5-year prison sentence. And in the Middle East, two long-standing adversaries stand locked in a tense standoff at one of the most critical waterways on Earth. At first glance, these stories may seem disconnected, but look closer and a pattern begins to emerge, one that reveals how power is being redefined in real time. Welcome to the Strategic Lens, where we go beyond the headlines to uncover the deeper forces at play. Let's begin in Burkina Faso, where the military-led government under Ibrahim Traoré has taken a dramatic step by dissolving more than 100 NGOs without prior warning. Officially, the move is justified on the grounds of national security and regulatory compliance, with authorities claiming that some organizations were operating outside the legal framework or potentially influencing domestic affairs. But critics argue that this is not just about regulation, it's about control. Civil society organizations have long played a critical role in monitoring governance, advocating for human rights, and amplifying the voices of ordinary citizens. Removing them from the equation doesn't just limit oversight, it reshapes the entire political environment. Supporters of the government point out that foreign-funded NGOs can sometimes act as instruments of external influence, raising valid concerns about sovereignty. Yet, the absence of transparency raises an equally important question. When accountability mechanisms are removed, who ensures that power remains in check? This tension between sovereignty and accountability is not unique to Burkina Faso. It is becoming a defining feature of governance in many parts of the world. Now shift focus to South Africa, where Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, has been sentenced to 5 years in prison over a firearm-related incident dating back to 2018. On the surface, this appears to be a straightforward legal matter, a case moving through the judicial system as it should. But in reality, it sits at the intersection of law, politics, and public perception. Malema is not an ordinary political figure. He is a polarizing voice who challenges economic inequality, advocates for land reform, and positions himself as a disruptor of the status quo. To his supporters, he represents resistance and transformation. To his critics, he represents instability and provocation. The key issue here is not whether the law should apply, it absolutely should, but whether it is applied consistently across the political spectrum. When high-profile figures are prosecuted, it inevitably raises questions about selective accountability, political pressure, and the independence of institutions. Malema's appeal is already in motion, and its outcome could have far-reaching consequences. If the sentence is upheld, it could significantly weaken a major opposition force. If overturned, it could reinforce concerns about judicial credibility. Either way, the case highlights a broader challenge facing democracies: maintaining public trust in systems that are meant to be impartial. Now move to the Middle East, where tensions between the United States and Iran continue to revolve around the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage is one of the most important energy corridors in the world, responsible for a significant portion of global oil transportation. What makes the current situation particularly complex is the coexistence of contradiction. There is a ceasefire, yet there is also a blockade. There is de-escalation in rhetoric, yet military presence remains high. This is not a state of peace, but rather a carefully managed tension. Neither side appears willing to escalate into full-scale conflict, yet neither is prepared to concede ground. This creates a fragile balance where the margin for error is extremely small. A single miscalculation, whether intentional or accidental, could trigger consequences that extend far beyond the region, impacting global markets, energy prices, and international alliances. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz is a reminder that geopolitics is not just about conflict. It is about leverage, signaling, and strategic positioning. When we step back and look at these three developments together, a unifying theme becomes clear. In Burkina Faso, power is consolidated by limiting civil oversight. In South Africa, power is contested through the legal system. And in the Gulf, power is negotiated through strategic pressure and controlled tension. Different methods, different contexts, but the same underlying objective: control. Control over narratives, over institutions, and ultimately over outcomes. This is the reality of global politics in 2026, where the lines between governance, justice, and strategy are increasingly blurred. The challenge for observers is not just to follow what is happening, but to understand why it is happening and what it